Everyone, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining me today. I see we have some people in the chat already. Saul, welcome. Pac-Man CT, great to have you here from Connecticut. And Brian from Cambridgeshire again. Glad you're here. Hello, Hector and Joe. So hope you guys are all doing well. And if you're returning, welcome back. This is your first time. Thanks for joining me. Today, I was going to do like a Q&A session, and I'll still answer some questions towards the end, but I guess kind of the main thing that happened this week was Affinity 2.6 was finally released. So we'll go over some of the new features in these programs here. And I think I think we did the beta stream. Like, I don't even remember when the beta came out. I think it was last year sometime. And so now we have kind of the full release finally going here. Hi Teak, Matrix Tech, IH, full house today. Khalid from Pakistan, cool. So that I haven't seen anyone from Pakistan on this channel yet, so welcome, Khalid. So yeah, I thought we'd start off talking about Affinity 2.6, and let's kind of go to the web page here. So Affinity released their release notes. You may have gotten an email if you subscribe to them. Hi, I am Will, doing good. And they have all their different release versions here, so you can kind of scroll down and you can see the options they have. Of course, it's a free update if you have the 2.0, any of the 2.x versions of the software. Kind of the main one is this object selection tool. So we'll look at some examples of that in a bit. And select subject, which is kind of a related topic. It can automatically select the subject in your image. And then if we scroll down, we have some there's some other features. I won't focus too much on these other ones. These are a little more specialized. I'll mostly look at the object and subject selection ones, but we'll look at a couple other ones going forward here. Hi Ernesto, thanks for joining. So let's move along here. So let's look at the object and selection tool. Now, first, there was one caveat where it won't work on some older MacBooks. I think you need like the newer Mac Silicon chip or something like that. So if you're on an older Mac, this might not be enabled. But if you're on Windows, it's generally there, I believe. And when you upgrade to 2.6, you need to enable some of these machine learning features. Let me open a file just to start with. And so if you go to, I think it's in File, or actually it's in Edit. So if you go to Edit, Settings, and then you go to Machine Learning. This is a new option here. And it gives you some of the details. Let me zoom in. It gives you kind of the details of how it works. So it has like these optional features. And you can choose to install these models. So I installed them ahead of time just so I wouldn't have to download it on stream. But there's the segmentation model and there's the saliency model. And one is like for the object selection tool and the other is for the selecting the subject. So in order to get them to work, you'll have to enable these two things and install them. And it'll prompt you if you try to use the tool without doing that. And they give you like the privacy verbiage over here about they're not using your data and that kind of thing. So in general they're pretty well behaved about how they implement these features if you're kind of on the fence about how they some other companies do these things. The biggest trend send. Thanks. Joe, you like the one-click color picker tool. Yeah, I'll show that a little bit later. Yeah, it's a cool feature in Affinity Designer. So kind of the new, all the new features, these object selection features, are kind of hid behind this, I guess it's an owl icon. That's what it looks like to me, an owl. And if you click it, it kind of thinks for a little bit there. And now we can actually kind of go into areas of our, whoops, I'm on the wrong layer here. Let me delete this. You should be on the correct layer. So now I'm on my current layer there. Let's try it again. All right, now it's actually working. So as I kind of hover over different things, you can see that it's allowing me to isolate the individual objects. So if I zoom in here, kind of when I cursor over something, I just hover there for a second and then it kind of finds it. So let's look at this green one. So it's nice the way you can actually find different objects like that. Now the main thing you want to do is select them. So once it kind of does this green bar here, you press the left mouse button and now it's made a selection. And from here, it's just kind of like a normal selection in terms of what you want to do with it. So, you could mask it out if you wanted, undo that. You could also click the refine button. So you could go to refine here and then just continue doing, the edge refinement like we do normally. So you can kind of do that. I'll just cancel that. And that's kind of the main thing of how it works. Now we'll look at a couple of different examples here just to see how it actually performs with different types of images. Brian, reading your comments. So the Nikon Z6 III. So okay, yeah, I haven't used that format, but I guess if it's helping you, that's definitely good. Like some more raw file formats. So let's open another one here. And this one's more of a portrait of a person. So once again, let's click on our owl icon here. It's thinking. Yeah, and now I can hover over different parts and it selects the woman here. So let me zoom in. Now, one of the key things is that we can actually kind of segment different parts of the object. So if I hold Alt here, notice, hopefully you can see kind of like the blue lines are over her skin there. So I'm holding Alt and it's finding out the parts that are the same object, but it's not connected. So her arm, her right arm and her left arm and her face are all kind of connected to her body, but they're separated by the shirt here. And like I said, when I hold over it, the default is to select the whole subject here, but if I hold the Alt key, I can select individual parts. And then if I press Shift, we can further sub-select into it. So I'm holding Alt now. I'll press Shift. Now I'm just selecting her face. Okay. And if I want to just select her arm here, again, her whole body, hold Alt to get just the skin, and then hold Shift to kind of just select this one segment here. So it's pretty smart about how it can kind of find the same object, even if it's broken up into different parts with other objects there. I can select her shirt here. Let's hold Alt. And we have her shirt. Sometimes you have to hover over like the specific place to kind of get a better... I'll press Shift now. So holding Alt and Shift gave me a much better selection of the shirt. So I'll click on this. And then what you can do is you can add like adjustments or something. So let's add like a HSL adjustment. I'll just move it out here. And actually, when I added the adjustment, it built in the mask of what I had selected. So I can unselect these things. I'll press Control D. And with my HSL adjustment, let's move her up here, I can actually change the color of her shirt here. So you can kind of change the hue. You can change the saturation level. You can do the lightness and darkness there. So it's a very convenient feature. Hi, Happy Doom. Happy Sunday. So, Saul, you're saying you noticed that it didn't neglect the area behind her neck. Oh, it found that part too? Interesting. Yeah, sometimes you have to kind of get in there and clean it up a bit. So, for example, in this mask example, I think it missed a few parts with the shirt there. Look at that showing again. So I'll select the paintbrush somewhere, and I'll just, I guess I want to erase it there. So if I select black, if I paint on the mask there, oops, I guess I want the other one, white. Yeah, so let's do this. We can kind of clean it up a little. You could do a better job on this if you had more time. So it's quite a nice feature there. Let's try another example. Hi, Grizzly Hands. So on this one, let's do the select subject. And select subject is kind of similar to the select object, but it tries to simplify it down to one click. So I chose select and I'll choose select subject here. I'll click this. And it does some thinking. And it selects the guy here. So it kind of does it's kind of a one-click way of just selecting the main part of your subject. So Saul, you're saying about the area behind her neck, would you then select it with the lasso tool? Yeah, let's go back to that one for a second. So let's think here. When you select someone like this, I'll do this. So now it's just a normal selection. So you can go back to like the selection brush here. I'll choose the selection brush. And then if I wanted, I could like Alt click to remove that area. So you can kind of like clean it up a little bit more. So I'm Alt clicking to remove part of the selection. And then you can go to the refine option and you can kind of paint over it a little bit more. And this is hair, it's kind of tricky. Let's try, I'll do a new layer with a mask. Apply. So it kind of did that. Yeah, so that's what you can do. Like when you have a selection, you can go and you can, like I said, it's just making the selection for you. So from that point on, everything is the same about the selection. And I didn't really do a good job of refining the rest of the face here. But, you know, when you have a mask, you can go back on it and you can, you know, clean it up. I would do the refinement again here. But, you know, you can, that was just showing you an example of this part here. So yeah, the select subject option is kind of trying to just reduce it all to like one click. Let's look at another example. So let's see how it does with this one. Kind of a complicated subject. So I'll say select. Actually, let me try it another way. I believe if you do the object selection tool, if I click this, you can also click and drag over an area and it will try to find the subject. So I'll do this and I'll let go. And now it found the subject in that area. So that's kind of another way you can do it. Joe, you're saying it's nice you can access the refine with these new tools. Yeah. So like I said, it's just kind of that first step of giving you the selection. And then when you have the selection from there, it's up to you if you want to add more to it or not. So in this case, let's add like an adjustment. I want to do like vibrance. And, you know, just the tiger is a little more vibrant, maybe a little more saturated. Maybe it's a little too much saturation. So this is before, after, before, after. Let's find some other examples here. This is another interesting one of, let's see how it does with the disjoint parts of his body there. So we have the face and the arm. So this is selecting his whole body. If I hold Alt, it's just selecting his skin. And you can see it's actually pretty cool there. Like, if I click this, it didn't select the watch either. So it just selected his hand, selected his forearm, and then it selected his face. And maybe we want like kind of more with this. So I noticed it didn't get his hair back here. So I'm going to use the selection brush. And I'll just click here. And it took out too much, so I'm going to press Alt and unpaint it there. And maybe you know, if you want the glasses or not, that's kind of your decision, I guess. So I'm just holding Alt to unselect things. And we have that boundary there. And if you want to clean up down here the hand, I'll Alt, whoops, took out a little too much there. We can go like that. And so forth. So yeah, like I said, it all just comes down to using the selections again as you go forward, and you can mask it out. So you could do what you like with this here. Probably the most common thing you would do in this situation is like add adjustments or something. You know, probably you're not just gonna mask things out, but it's possible. Let's find another example. I like this example because I think it's a little, it's almost a little unfair, you know, the complexity of it, but let's give it a shot and see what happens here. I'll press the object selection tool. Actually, let's try select subject. I have no idea what it'll even do. I don't even know what the subject would be of this, so I'll say select. I don't know if humans would even agree like what the subject is. I think it just panicked and did nothing, so I can't blame it for that. But, it is interesting here. Like this kid, it kind of figures out like this kid is one thing, you know? So you could click select him. And we'd have to refine it a little bit here. You know, I just select that hand. Probably unselect. It did get a little too much over here. But I think it did a pretty good job with that one person. And I think kind of like with this tool, I think I said this during the beta too, like it's kind of nice. It gets you that first 80% of it like really quickly. So it's really nice for just like kind of quickly starting on something and getting you that basic thing. So, you know, normally we'd have to like select the kid. It'd be kind of annoying to like do all this kind of stuff. With the object selection tool, it kind of jumps ahead and lets us do the, kind of takes out that tedious intro step. Let's try just a couple more photos here. If you guys have used the beta or the 2.6 release, let me know in the chat like what you think of it so far. Let's see what it does for this select subject. Let me know if you downloaded it or not so far. This one's pretty good. It just it selected both of those things for some reason, but it was nice that it found the car. So, you know, again, this would be a super nice little thing. You could unselect this, and now with your car you could go and you could choose the refine option and further improve the selection here. So I have it set to matte, so when I paint over the edges, it's going to try to find like the edges. It's going to try to clean up those edges. So Saul, you're saying it would have a difficulty doing a tree or a series of trees. Yeah, let's try that. Let me look, see if I can find an image of trees here. Haven't tried that one yet. Let's see. Again, sometimes you see an image, you know, like even as a human, I don't know what I would call the subject. Let's do this one. Laura, you're saying you downloaded it. Cool. Let's see what it does for find subject on this. Select subject. Maybe this middle one is kind of the subject. I don't know. I guess it didn't like it. Let's try this object selection. So yeah, we can do, it's finding the objects here. So I think this is pretty good actually. Let's select this. I don't know why it's not selecting. I'm wondering if it has to be a pixel layer. If I, maybe I have to rasterize it. Let's rasterize. I know what I'm doing wrong. If I'm clicking it, it's not selecting. Is it working on the other one? Let's see. That's working. Let's go here. Oh, now it is. I think maybe because I had that window open in the other tab. Maybe that's why it's not, why it wasn't going. Let me click it now. All right, now it's selecting. Let's refine this and see what happens. Very tricky selection. Just go over this. And again, I have it set to matte down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to output it. So I'm going to do new layer with a mask down here. And what this does is it does something called color decontamination, which is it's going to try to take out the background bleeding of our main subject there. So let's do that new layer with a mask. So I'll click apply. I think that's actually pretty decent. Although maybe if I put a layer behind it, let's see how it looks. New fill layer. So you can kind of see how it got cut out. Like it did a pretty good job over here of cutting it out. So that was a nice time saver, selecting that there. So just to kind of expand upon the color decontamination thing, this is what it does when you do color decontamination. It actually adds in the color of your subject like around the trees and stuff, so that when you apply the mask, the edge isn't frayed with the blue of the background and stuff like that. So that's why I like to do new layer with a mask. So those are kind of the main ones for selecting the subject or the object selection tool. Thanks, Jane. No problem. Yeah, so those are kind of some of the demos I went through. Thanks for that suggestion for the tree one. That was a pretty cool example. Let's see what else we have here. So there's a couple new mask options I like, and I just mentioned this because there was one feature I kind of requested on on James Ritson's stream. I asked about a certain feature, and it got implemented. I don't know if it was because of my request or not, but I was happy to see it. So let me just find an example here. So let me paste like this donut. So there's probably been like many times where you're like, I want to remove the center of this donut or something. So you select like, you select the middle, And you're like, all right, let's create a mask. And you do the mask, and it does like the complete opposite of what you want. You want the middle removed. Now you can actually right click on the mask and you can just say invert mask. So I'll right click on the mask and I'll say invert mask, and now it does the opposite, so it's cool. So now I just reversed the mask. So I like that little new feature, so I'm glad they implemented that. So if you right click on a mask, there's a couple other masks. There's clear mask, there's a fill mask, which is basically just reset it, and then there's the invert. So I just like those options. They were always in the menu, but now just like right clicking on it is so much more convenient, I think. So I guess if I selected this and I selected the outside area, actually, what am I doing? I should use the new object selection tool. Let's do this. Whoops, let's try it on this layer. Let's do subject selection. Yeah, the invert mask one is very nice. All right, so it kind of thinks the middle is part of the subject, but we'll get rid of that. I'll use the selection brush. I'll unselect the middle, so then I can mask it out, and super easy. So that's actually a really nice use case. And then you can let me delete this other one. Then you can invert it if you like. So very cool little feature, little quality of life improvement, not major, but just a nice little thing they added. Then yeah, this color picker tool, this was the last one I was gonna mention. There's some Affinity Publisher ones also, but I thought those were a little more specialized. Segmentar, yeah, invert mask, yeah. I think we all think it was made for us because it's so useful. So I think everyone can benefit from it. So I'm in Affinity Designer now, and I haven't played with this option too much. I've just done the basics. But basically, if you have a object selected now, if you use the color picker and select the color of another object, it'll apply it to your current object. So that's pretty nice. And it's just kind of a nice little thing. I think now if you want to work the old way, like you hold Alt or something. So if I hold Alt, actually let me do something else. Let's do this green. So I have this selected. I'll do the color picker. I'm holding Alt. Yeah, now I have my green. It didn't apply it when you hold Alt. So that's the old behavior. So it's kind of a nice little thing. If you have something selected, you want to quickly get the color. Boom, it just goes there in one thing. So nice little option there. And those are kind of the main things I had to say about the beta. Like I keep calling it the beta because I'm so used to the 2.6 being the beta, but now it's actually the real version, 2.6. But yeah, just there's other stuff too if you're interested on their page. Like I said, there's some publisher stuff about some new ways they spread the page options, I guess. There's some stuff with the pen and pencil tool improvements. Like you can auto close the pencil movement now. There's some better smoothing options. Let's go down here. And those are kind of the main ones. And like we heard earlier, I guess there's some more raw file formats somewhere. So yeah, probably lots of other stuff too. But yeah, that's kind of the main stuff about the 2.6 release. So I thought it was pretty useful. Yeah, let me know if you guys are going to use it or plan to use it. So let's go on to some of the questions from the week here. These are kind of questions I get on my videos, and I like to review them on stream to kind of just give a little demo of how they work here. So I got this question about masks and pixel layers, and kind of relates to what we just talked about, using masks and stuff like that. So I'll show you a little demo here of what he's asking. Teak, you're saying always close on the pencil is awesome. Yeah. That seems like it would be a pretty useful feature for people that use the pencil tool a lot. So the question here was, I think kind of the main thing here is like if you're creating a mask on the wrong layer, how do you move the mask? So let's look at that for a moment here. So let's say I want to make her lips red or something like that. So you might go and I'll select the selection brush. And I guess I could do the object selection tool, but I'll just do this the old school way with the selection brush. So Darwin was right. You're saying 2.6 pre-port update. You're hoping 2.7 will be huge. Yeah, I mean, I guess I know one thing too is like with this Canva merger, it's there's a lot of work being done on that too. So I don't know if 2.6 was already planned before the Canva merger, but we'll see what happens after that, you know. Thanks so much, Matrix Tech. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The super chat. So a lot of times what happens is like you want to mask this out. So you create a mask. And then you're like, okay, I have this mask, but I want to use it on something else, right? So let me press Control D here. And I'll turn off the mask. So like maybe you want to like paint her lips like red or something like that. So I can do the, this is going to look kind of bad, but I also want HSL. I want the wheel also. I like the wheel. So let me create like a new pixel layer above it. And let me select a better brush. So, you know, you can like paint, I like the wet edges. So, you know, you can paint over like her lips and stuff like that. You want it to be red. And you can do something like, again, this is going to be a very garish effect, but like, you know, the color effect. Now, how do you make it so it just uses what you did with the mask? Well, what you can do is you can take the mask and you can drag it onto your pixel layer here. So I'm going to drag them and let go. And then I'll turn it on. And now it's just limited to that area there. So that's how you can kind of like move a mask between different things. You can literally just click on it and drag it to other things. And again, this color is not that great. I mean, let's shoot something more subtle, you know. Maybe it's even going to be like faded or something. So, you know, that's how you can kind of do that. That's essentially you're just dragging masks around. And if you create a mask in the wrong place, you can drag it and let go on some other layer there. Joe, reading your comment. Yeah, inverting mask in the right click is cool. Yeah, I guess a bunch of people are mentioning the pencil tool. Let's just take a quick look at it since people seem to like that change. So where is my pencil tool? So here's the pencil tool. And when you do this, the new options are up here. So we have this auto close and it's near, far, always, and we have this smoothness option. So with auto close off, if I drag a, make a stroke, if I drag something, whoops, I also don't, that, all right, yeah. Let me make the stroke bigger. Yeah. So with auto close off, you know, this is what it does. You know, there's no closing. What I can do is I can turn it near. So if I do this, when I get near, it does that little line there, and I can let go, and it automatically closes it. Then you can do far, which is like a little bit further away. So that's like further there. And then you can do always, which is like, even if I'm like this far away and I let go, it'll always close it. So those are the kind of the options there for that new the new pen options, pencil options. And then there's some smoothness options too. So I guess if I do this, it smooths it. Let me turn off the closing. It'll smooth it a little bit. I can do 0 smoothing. So it didn't smooth it too much. I can do 100% smoothing. So it's kind of a useful thing to play with, I guess. So those are some options there. I guess 50% was the default. Lori, you're saying you can color code master pages in Publisher, which is helpful. That's nice. Cool. Yeah, I think you know, you can color code layers and stuff in the other ones, but yeah, color coding the master pages is would probably be beneficial. I could see that being beneficial for a lot of people. Publisher is the one I have the least experience with, but I have done some stuff with it, like creating PDFs and stuff, but usually they're pretty simple. Jane, you're saying I've convinced you enough to download 2.6. Yeah, I haven't had any issues with it, so I don't think it's like risky. You know, I don't think it's going to crash or anything like that. If it does, maybe you can revert or something. But yeah, I'd say give it a try, you know. There's probably also lots of little other bugs that have been fixed. Let's close these. I got this question. I think this is your question, Saul, right? In mail. He says he was doing something and he saw this icon here in Affinity Designer that said fixed ball size. So he was very curious what that meant. And let's check that out. What's actually happening there is when you choose different shapes, you're going to see different options in the menu. So the one you're referring to here was one of the teardrop tools, I think. So if you select the tear tool, you can do this. And I'll make it some other color. And you have this option up here, fixed ball size. Now, I had no idea like what that means before you click it. You just kind of click it, and you can kind of see it just kind of changes the shape. I guess what it does is it adds this other control here. When I turn this off, I only get this one control. I only get these 3 controls here. That's interesting. But yeah, when you click this one here, you have another option, I suppose. So it's just like another option for the the tier tool. But basically, whenever you choose any of these options here, you're gonna see like specialized things in the top bar. So if I drag this here, you see this teeth thing, right? So I can add more teeth. I can reduce the teeth. There's inner radius, you know. So not all those shapes have the same options. Some just have these kind of random things that have strange names. So pie tool, you know, if I do the pie tool with my pie selected, I have different options up here: start angle, end angle. So if you see something like really crazy up here, probably means you have a shape selected, and it's, you know, it's some specific option for that. So that's what that was for this one. You know, some of the other options are there. The call out, does it have anything interesting? Yeah, there's like the tail angle. So there's all sorts of different things for the different shapes. Rogue Wave Creative, you're saying 2.6 has been great on the Mac. Okay. And Volcavism. So you're saying you're hoping Serif would bring back the essential tools for Affinity Designer. Interesting, yeah. Which tools do you think are essential? I know that there's a couple that people really want, like vector trace, a blend tool. I think the blend tool would be really cool. Vector trace, I think there's just going to be so many online tools that do it better these days. It's hard to implement that well, like creating a vector. I guess vector trace would be okay, but raster to vector is a really hard problem to solve. Rogue Wave, bring your other comment. So you're hoping that one of the things is that there's a lot of stuff in Affinity Designer you can do that there is no documentation. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe that will be something they focus on, better guides and things like that. I saw this question on Reddit and I thought it was interesting to answer. So this person, they wanted to create this image kind of on the left with like a cat in kind of a rounded rectangle with some white text on the bottom. And they keep getting this thing on the right. And I think this involves a couple concepts that would be useful to review that I haven't seen, we haven't talked about in a while. So let's look at this. So we want to create this image on the left. Kind of how do we put an image in a frame, basically, is what the question is. So let's do that. Now, let's see here. I found this cool picture of a cat. I'll use a different picture. Alan Picard. Let's use his image here. I'll just copy this for demonstration purposes. So, kind of what we want to do is, how can we put our image of a cat? Let's get these all on the screen. Like in a rounded frame. So what I'll do is I'll create a rectangle here. So I'll use the rectangle tool. Actually, I think there's a rounded rectangle one that is easier. So I'll select the rounded rectangle up here. And I'll draw like a rectangle, like so. Kind of running out of space here. Let me put this up here. So you can draw like a shape like this. And the key thing here is that when you have an image, you can actually drag it inside of a shape. So I'm going to take the cat here. I'm going to drag it over my rounded rectangle. And it kind of disappears because it's outside of that range. But if I expand the rectangle, my cat is selected. If I drag it over, you'll see now it's inside this shape here. So I can kind of move it around like so. And let's open this here. Yeah, blend, vector eraser, selection to curves. Yeah, definitely good suggestions. I think the blend is the one I would like to see a lot, the most of. Yeah, Rogue Wave, you're saying you've bugged them about the blend tool. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be added at some point. Yeah, Rogue Wave, I remember your email. And Dwight, you're saying you enjoyed the 2.6 features. Nice. Yeah, and the selection tool is very useful. Cool. So, once you have this image inside your rectangle here, you may want to like reshape the rectangle, but it's not like it's reshaping the thing inside it also. So with my rectangle selected, there's an option that's off the screen on this one. If I click this arrow up here, I can say lock children. And now I can actually like adjust my rectangle and the cat inside won't move. So I can move it up and down. And that's just really nice because, it's a thing you want to do sometimes. You want to like change the shape but not move the thing inside it. So now I'll disable that lock the children again. Now if I do it, everything moves scaling together. I also want to change the corners of this shape here. So if I use the node tool, I can kind of zoom in and just adjust the corners like so. So that's kind of the basics of how you put something in another object there. So we kind of achieved most of it. Now for the text down here, we can use like the frame text tool. This is the one that's good for paragraphs of text. So I'll click and drag this. I'll just say this is a cat. It is cool. Thing. Yes. So, you can just add your text as you like. And that's kind of how you can do that. Now, the big question is like, how do you make it white? Well, there's a couple reasons. There's a couple ways you can do that. If you select the rectangle here, you can make the rectangle white. So that's one thing you can do. You can also add a white background behind it. So if I click on and drag this, let me make it like a gray background just so it's easier to see. Let's say we want to add like a gray background. Once again, I have a rectangle. I can put it over here. Actually, I forgot to put my text inside the shape, so I'll put that there. Then I'll take this rectangle. I'll put that in the rounded rectangle also, and I'll just move it behind. So that's kind of the main way you can do that. So that's really how you can achieve this effect. Just the key here is you have the rounded rectangle up top, and you can just kind of embed things inside of it. So reading some of the comments. So Joe, you're saying you like how they were sourced ethically and don't send your data back to Serif. Yeah, I think that's a good thing too. Rogue Wave. You don't want Affinity Designer to be Illustrator. Yeah, I think the differences are good too. And sometimes programs can just be too bloated, there's so much going on that it becomes really hard to see like what is actually like there. All right, so let's look at next question. So this is another question I saw and on Reddit, and I kind of liked the question because I thought it was a good question for like text design and things like that. So he's saying he wants to make an image like the one on the left, but what happens is, with the image on the left, the letters are straight up and down, but they're on this curved surface. But whenever he does it, it kind of ends up like the one on the right, where the letters are kind of going off onto the side. So let's look at how we can do this. First, I found a font I like. Let's download this font here. So I found it on Creative Fabrica. I haven't installed it on this computer yet. It'll take like 2 seconds. Whoops. So it's called like Brown College Font. So I'm just going to download it. And I'll just install it in the temp. So in Affinity, when you install a font, it usually just shows up by default. So I did this zip file here. Let's extract it. And it doesn't really matter if you do the OTF or the TTF. I just usually click the first one I see. I'll install this. And it should be done there. So let's go back to, let's create some type of new file here. Let's delete all this stuff. So yeah, so we have some text here, and we got this, I guess he wants to call it Harvard. let's select this brown font, Brown College. So, you know, we have this text here, and what he wants is, he wants to make it look like the one on the left. So this is our reference here. So the question is, how do we get something that looks like that? Happy Doom, reading your comments. So you're saying, what will it look like after completing the merger with Canva? Yeah, I don't know. We just don't know. Like, in terms of like what Canva's bought in the past, sometimes you don't really see many changes. They just own it. I don't know, to like get the profits or something. So I don't really know like what features will be combined or shared. And Rogue Wave, reading your question. You did not get Adobe. Yeah, Adobe has gotten somewhat bloated. Yeah, I agree. Joe, reading your question. What's the difference between OTF and TTF? Is one preferable over the other? Yeah, they're just different font standards, and I can't remember. One, I think, was more of like an Apple standard, and I think there were some subtle differences like in the old days, but I think now they're mostly the same. So I don't think it really matters too much, but they're kind of, they're pretty much, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, in my opinion. Hi, Art Prof. Thanks for joining. Glad you caught one of my streams. Thanks for chiming in here. Hope you're doing well back in Utah. So let's get this text curve like this. So I'll select the ellipse tool here. And, you know, in Affinity, what you can do is you can drag on a, with the artistic text tool, you can kind of type on any shape. So I'll select this thing here. You can see the T has this curvy line like this. I'll click and drag, and I can say Harvard. Whoops, if I can type Harvard. Yeah, Rogue Wave, I can't remember the exact difference. I think there were one had some subtle support for something that the other didn't, but for the most part, I don't think there's too much of a difference these days. So this text kind of all went to the left, and what I'll do is I'll select the paragraph options and I'll center it. Yeah, you have no idea what anyone's talking about. No problem. Yeah, there's the software I talk about mostly is Affinity programs, and that's like the photo editing and vector tools, and they just released kind of their 2.6 update. So I've just been going over some of the features there. So it's kind of a cool that they finally released it. So one of the options here that helps is the character tab. So if you select Window, Text, hi Breezer, thanks for joining, Character. This will let you actually do operations on individual characters. Let me zoom in a little bit. So if you missed that, what I did is Window, Text, Character. And there's lots of options here for changing the way each letter looks. And if anyone knows a better way to do this, feel free to let me know. The way I would approach this problem is I would just select one letter here. And now we have this option here called shearing. So there's all sorts of different options here. But shearing is the one where you can actually change the direction of the letters. And it's kind of a little tedious with this word because you have to select all the characters. But it's basically the way you can go and make them stand up taller. Prof, reading your question. So you're saying make really simple graphics. They're like an image with text over it. You always use Instagram stories to do, which seems dumb. Yeah, I mean, for a simple use case, I think Canva is probably the way to go. If you don't want to like pay for anything, the free program is probably like perfectly suitable for that. You can just throw an image, put your text on it, and go from there. So I'd say try that. And if you need that kind of more complex stuff, then I would say, you know, something like Affinity Designer and all that. But it sounds like just for simple things like make graphics with image over, you know, with text over an image, I think Canva would be a good place to start. Hope that helps. Leslie, reading your question, is there a way to upscale an image in Affinity Photo? Not at the moment, no. So it doesn't have any of that kind of upscaling stuff yet. I mean, it has the basic resizing, and it can do some like interpolation of the pixels, but it's not like a professional like AI-based upscaler. So what we can do here is just kind of rearrange the letters, and it's kind of trial and error. But I'll just select this, and I'll get them standing up. Yeah, no problem. And what you're inevitably going to notice is that the size of the letters is kind of a little bit awkward relative to each other. So you can also resize the letters. So I'm selecting this D here. I can use the vertical scale option to kind of reduce the size of it here. Maybe the H is a little too long also, too tall. So I'll reduce it like that. And you can kind of tweak it to kind of keep making it look better. But this is the main way I would go about doing this there. So now you have like the word. They're kind of not all going out radially from the center. You have them standing up tall like this. So that's the kind of the main way of doing that. So that was an interesting question. And last question for the day, how did I get the virtual background behind me? Yeah, it's actually a real background. I don't know if it looks virtual or fake or not, but it's real. I've actually considered doing a actual virtual background at some point. I think I might just kind of vary it up a little bit. But yeah, it's a real background there. So I guess maybe it's not convincing to some people. But yeah, we'll see. So that's kind of the main stuff I had for today. I'll stay on for another couple minutes. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask. But yeah, the Affinity 2.6 updates are pretty cool. And those were the main ones that jumped out at me. I think the object subject selection one is going to be the main thing that people are excited about. And who knows what 2.7 will entail. I think now that they're joined with Canva, it might have kind of changed their direction or something. I'm just speculating. I have no insider knowledge, but we'll see what happens. There's no roadmap for what comes after this. And yeah, so if you guys are liking the new features, certainly let me know if you found any creative use cases for them. I think that object selection, like I said, I think it's kind of a nice tool to just kind of get past that first 80% of selecting your subjects and stuff. So it'll definitely be a time saver. In terms of videos coming out, I'm working on a DaVinci Resolve 101 tutorial, and I'll be still writing that, so I hope to get that out soon. And eventually I'll have some more Midjourney ones also. No problem, Lori. No problem, Jane and Hector. And yeah, I think next week we'll do another Q&A session. Like I said, I want to do some more design reviews on these streams. So if you guys have artwork or print-on-demand products or anything, or even like an Etsy shop or a Shopify store, if you want some feedback on that, let me know and we can actually go over it on stream. I've been doing this with the company Printify. I've been working with inside their sellers club as a mentor, and I've been giving some feedback on shops, and I kind of would like to do that publicly too if people have things they'd like to get help on, especially like print on demand and those types of things. So if you have like things you want to get feedback on, let me know. I like that to be part of these streams. No problem, Teak, IH, and Barry, thanks for coming. Matrix Tech, you're saying, have I tried working with Comfy UI yet? I haven't, but it looks pretty cool. That's like kind of the AI workflow generating tool, as far as I know, right? I haven't tried it. Yet, but I would like to. Segmentera, thank you very much. Joe, you're saying feedback would be fun. Sure. On my channel, you can just send me an email on the channel header. My email address is there. And Saul, you're saying you wouldn't mind getting feedback either. Yeah, I would like that to be part of the stream, so we'll see how it goes. And Brian, too. Thanks again. And thanks, Leslie, also. All right, guys, that's all I have for today, so I will see you next week, and have a good one. Take care. Bye.